late 1920s was not the best place to be living in. The world was on the brink of the economic collapse that would be historically known as the Great Depression. Horrors of the Great War were fresh in every mind. But in 1928, in the midst of it all, a Londoner would change the world forever, for the better. Bacteriologist Alexander Fleming would notice that mold growing in one of his petri dishes had secretions that killed bacterial colonies around it. The discovery of penicillin by Fleming is a milestone of modern science, not just modern medicine. The age of the antibiotic was a turning point in human history. But what was going on before and after Fleming's discovery? It wouldn't be fair to say that penicillin was the first revolution in medicine. Without further ado, let's jump into the why, the what, the who, the when, the where, and the how of medicine, its history, and its evolution over literal millennia. Why does medicine evolve? Evolution is primarily a biological trait. Because medicine is a discipline responsible to grapple with biological forces in the form of bacteria, viruses, and fungi, it isn't wrong to say medicine is in a race against nature. Take penicillin itself, for instance. From its discovery in 1928 to mass production in the 1940s, penicillin would turn a plethora of formerly lethal cases into easily treated ones. But bacterial species began to exhibit resistance as soon as 1947. They had literally evolved to produce enzymes that would fight and disintegrate the drug itself. Medicine had to evolve in response. Biologists and microbiologists and pharmacists had to convene and come up with alternatives like ampicillin and amoxicillin. The point is, there is no debate that humans will always have to adapt and come up with new remedies and medical technology to combat the challenges posed by nature and to make medical procedures more efficient. What does the evolution of medicine look like? Simply put, medical advancements aren't unlike any other technology. Early medicine was mainly herbal with a side of surgery. Ancient humans consumed fruits, roots, berries, and leaves. Eventually, they connected the dots and figured out that eating X leads to effect Y. If it really went down like that, and historians and scientists agree that it did, we can just about claim that the modern scientific method was born out of the primal field of medicine. Medicine in the ancient and medieval world was very intertwined with religion and mysticism. Monks and healers were highly synonymous. Success and survival rates were nowhere close to the omnipotence attributed to most gods. But common folk often had no choice but to trust the clergy with their health. Temples, monasteries, churches, and mosques were accompanied by gardens where herbs grew, and hospital-esque rooms where the sick could be housed. Even though we can presume countless lives were saved by these cleric doctors, it also has to be true that they didn't know what they were doing a lot of the time. But on the other hand, the establishments were a valuable source of experience by experimentation. Herbal medicine evolved to high effectiveness, and so did surgery. Surgical practice went from crude amputations and excisions to bleeding practices using leeches to delicate procedures once early anesthetics were introduced. Herbal medicine and surgical practice has continued to this day, but much of the healthcare mythos is now dominated by pharmaceuticals. Herbal remedies do exist and even prevail in some parts of the world, but have often been pushed to the sidelines for better or worse. Developed societies are great markets under capitalism. Pharmacies and surgeries employ sophisticated technology. Modern medicine relies on immunizations to prevent, see-through imaging to diagnose, complicated drugs to cure, and robots and radiation to kill diseases right where they lie in the body. Who is behind it? Medical scientists identify problems and come up with pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical measures to solve them. Early medicinal study was mainly taken up by polymaths like Imhotep, Hippocrates, Ibn Sina, and Ibn Zur. People like these were part of a trend, where the most expert physicians would also be great philosophers and literaries. Hippocrates, in whose name doctors take their professional oaths even today, and Ibn Sina are prominent names credited with producing the first physiological and anatomical studies in text. Medical advancements in the contemporary world have taken varied routes. Scholars from different disciplines team up at university campuses, and the fruits of their discussions are, most of the time, a newly discovered threat or a newly discovered intervention. When is it dangerous? Because universities, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies aren't exactly the most transparent organizations. A lot of public outcry is aimed at controversial practices being carried out behind closed doors, in the guise of healthcare. Medical science and moral philosophy find themselves colliding in the modern world. Ages after the two practically grew hand in hand. Darwinism and evolution at large agree that it is up to nature to eliminate unfit genetics from the human race like every other species. But what happens when humans begin to preserve each other and are extremely caring towards the genetically unfit? Theoretically, it should lead to a societal and biological decline. Clouded by bad genetics, the human genome should end up so polluted it leads to an incapability to compete with nature for survival. It should lead to human extinction. But does that mean we should accept the suffering of the weak as simply natural selection? Doesn't seem ethically sound at all. Would you choose to save a loved one from death or a lifetime of suffering? Or would you see a greater good in allowing nature to select the fittest of us as ancestors of the future generation? Where is the limit? People throughout history, wise and otherwise, have claimed that human progress has come to a head. There is no more to do. Discover, invent, create. But our species keeps proving them wrong. At the Center for the Future Mind at Florida Atlantic University, founding member and director Susan Schneider makes the case for the potential of cutting-edge science in the context of human survival. She argues that cybernetics and smart prosthetics will soon be able to preserve human consciousness. But Schneider also admits it will be closer to creating a digital double of yourself in the process of shedding the organic components that are vulnerable to what is essentially rotting, an elongated process that results in death. That's quite a tangent to go on. But hear me out just a bit longer. If medical science aims to keep improving life and quality of life, shouldn't its ultimate goal be human immortality? But preserving human consciousness by replacing all of our organic parts with cybernetic and prosthetic devices is not really human survival, right? We'd be handing down our cognition, our knowledge and experience and values and emotions to a digital creature. How does medicine compare to the rest of technology? Historically, as well as in the present day, medicine has been considered the one science that our survival really depends upon. A detailed look at other sciences reveals evidence to the contrary. Knowledge of agriculture, environmental management, political science, philosophy, psychology, and sociology has time and again saved the human species from the brink of collapse. However, medicine and its evolution as a science is probably the factor most directly linking our efforts to our survival as a species. Whenever other sciences have evolved, most of what they've given us is environmental hazards, killing machines, an ever more sedentary lifestyle, unhealthy food, and a drastic devaluation of human labor. While it is undeniable that medicine has come a long way, and for the greater good, we'd be smart to enable more transparent policies and practices in healthcare organizations. Medicine and its advancements have always been kept out of reach of the average Joe, but the need to bridge the gap now is perhaps greater than it has ever been. All our lives we've been told what we need to buy, but we deserve to know what is good for us on a biological level. Imagine the public mind being able to watch the evolving and advancing field in real time, celebrating and knowing whenever nature plays her next dirty trick, medicine has got our back.